Well, hello everybody, and this is Claire Obermarck with another water story from Storytelling Sedona. This is an old folklore tale from Japan, and it's about a healer who lived in a small village. And the healer, his reputation preceded him because he was very learned and he was very kind. He had gathered a huge amount of skill and he knew about all the herbs and everything that would cure virtually anything. And he was so kind, he would never walk past anybody who needed help, regardless of who they were. He would stop and help them. And he always told his daughter to do this as well. And he hoped that one day he would be able to pass all of his skills and knowledge down to his daughter, Tokoyo. But Tokoyo wasn't really feeling that she would be a healer. Tokoyo was really in love with swimming and diving, and the thing she loved to do most of all was dive down to the bottom of the ocean, to the seabed, and hunt for pearls. She would take her oyster knife with her, and when she found an oyster, prise it open and see if she could be a pearl fisher. And she'd been practicing with a group of women to circular breathe and hold her breath for as long as possible, and she was getting really good at this. Well, anyway, one day the local warlord called for her father to heal him. He was having problems breathing, his lungs felt as if they were filling with water, and nobody could cure his ailment. He didn't have a lot of patience, and anybody who couldn't cure him was being sent off to prison and never seen again. So reluctantly, Tokoyo's father went along and attempted to heal the warlord, but to no avail. It didn't work, and he sent him away immediately to prison, to a small island. He didn't even have time to say goodbye to Tokoyo. So when she heard what had happened to her father, she immediately gathered her things and set off. She would at least keep him company, if not attempt to rescue him. And finally she came across the small island where he was being imprisoned, and she went towards where she thought the prison would be, but on the way she saw something silver glimmering in the distance at the edge of a rock, and she couldn't stop this curiosity about what this silver light was, so she went towards it. And when she got near, she realised it was a group of people. It was a girl at the edge of the rock, wrapped in a silver robe, and a priest was with her. And the girl was crying and sobbing, and the priest was telling her to stop and calm down and that everything would be fine. And there was a group of local fishermen with their boats in a semicircle around this scene. Small boats with long nets. Well, Tokoyo went up to the priest and the girl and she shouted, Hey, what's going on here? What's happening? And the girl was sobbing, and the priest said, It's nothing to do with you. This is something that we need to do each year. And it turned out that there was a great giant sea serpent, and the only way that they could stop the sea serpent from wrecking the ships and taking many lives was to provide it with a sacrifice to eat each year of a girl. And she was to be wrapped in a silver robe so the serpent would know it was a gift. Tokoyo was really angered about this, and she looked at the young girl with pity and she said, Can you even swim? No, said the girl. Oh, said Tokoyo, You idiots, I'll go. What? Said the priest. You're out of your mind, you'll die. I'll go, at least I can swim, and at least I'm volunteering, said Tokoyo. So she took the silver robe from the girl, who fell to her knees, and she dived into the water. Down into the depths of the water she went, and she took a few seconds to accustom herself to her surroundings, because of course everything looks so different under the water. The light's all different. So she got used to that, and then she started to swim around, and she came across something, and it was a wooden statue. It was a man standing on the seabed on the floor, and it was just a wooden statue, and he had his mouth open, and it was full of seawater and seaweed. And she thought, well, that's not a sea serpent, that can't be it. And then something caught the corner of her eye, a yellow flash, and that was the giant sea serpent. So Tokoyo went off and started swimming towards it. Well, the sea serpent had seen the silver robe and started swimming towards her too, and head-butted her at the side, and she went flying through the water in surprise, and then she opened her eyes to find herself in the sea serpent's mouth within a few seconds. Well, she was a clever girl. She curled herself up into a ball and she kicked her feet against the back of the sea serpent's mouth as if she was pushing herself off from the side of a swimming pool, and she shot forwards and she shot out of the sea serpent's mouth and back through the water. This gave her some valuable time, and the sea serpent was grabbing and chasing her, and it grabbed the hem of the silver robe with its teeth. Well, Tokoyo took her oyster knife from her belt and she cut off the hem of the silver robe, and the sea serpent went after that, not the dark shadow of Tokoyo herself. And she realised the silver was really useful, so she took off the whole robe and she let it drop through the water, and the sea serpent indeed started to chase that while she swam in the opposite direction. She then doubled back and took her knife and stabbed the serpent's eye, and then she swam over his head and she stabbed the other eye so he was blind, and then she got the knife and she ripped it through his throat. But instead of removing the knife, she kept it in, and she went all the way down the side of his body as if she was peeling an apple at home, all the way down the side of the sea serpent's yellow body and all the way around. And then the black blood stopped pumping. There was no blood, and she realised it was dead. And she let the sea serpent drop heavily to the bottom of the water onto the seabed. And then she kept the long yellow piece of sea serpent skin, and she swam back towards where she'd seen the wooden statue of the man, and she wrapped the yellow skin around as a rope, and then she tugged and pulled, and calmly as she could, remembering all of her skills from diving, she kept holding her breath, and she swam up to the surface of the water, and then she dragged the statue onto the beach and rolled it over and let the water come out of the mouth of the wooden statue. And many miles away, the warlord breathed out and in surprise. He had healed. The curse had been lifted. Well, Tokoyo shouted to the fisherman, "Go to the prison, tell my father that I am coming for him, but tell him I have had to stop and help people along the way." And they did, and word reached the warlord that it was indeed a young girl, Tokoyo, who had lifted the curse and saved his health, and he arranged for her father, the healer, to be released, and they went back to the village, and they lived there happily. But Tokoyo carried on swimming and diving, but from that day on she always took a piece of silver material just in case she came across a deadly giant sea serpent. Well, that's the water story from today. That's been retold by Larry Don, a great storyteller, and it was originally from the Book of Ancient Tales and Folklore of Japan by Richard Gordon Smith. It's from 1918. So he gathered those folk tales, and it can be retold in many ways. But I'm telling you virtually Larry Don's version, which is fabulous because Larry likes collecting stories of hero girls, you know, and I think that story is great for young girls to listen to and realise they can be a great hero like Tokoyo and practice their swimming skills and their bravery. Well, that's it for today. Bye-bye.